Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel NPA Discovery, the place where we look beyond glamorous photographs, famous romances, and carefully managed Hollywood legends to uncover the complicated human stories hidden behind them. Today, we are exploring the extraordinary, controversial, and deeply painful life of Sondra Locke. She entered Hollywood with the kind of debut most actors spend their entire careers chasing. In her first major motion picture, she earned an Academy Award nomination. She appeared to possess everything necessary for a long and respected career: talent, intelligence, a distinctive screen presence, and the willingness to take difficult risks. Then she became involved with one of Hollywood's most powerful stars. For a time, that relationship seemed to increase her visibility. She appeared in commercially successful films, shared the screen with a global celebrity, and entered the highest levels of the entertainment industry. But gradually, the story changed. Her identity became tied to his. Her independent acting opportunities narrowed. Her directing ambitions met resistance. Her private decisions became part of a bitter legal conflict. She battled breast cancer while fighting one of the most powerful men and studios in Hollywood. And when she died decades later, the news remained private for more than a month. Even the Academy Awards memorial tribute failed to include the woman who had once been nominated for one of its highest honors. The title of this video suggests that Sondra Locke fought Hollywood and was almost erased. I agree with the heart of that statement, but the complete truth requires more care. Sondra's career cannot be explained only by Clint Eastwood. She made decisions before meeting him that affected her future. She turned down important roles. She concealed parts of her personal history. She entered complicated relationships and sometimes created contradictions that followed her for decades. At the same time, it would be equally misleading to pretend that power had nothing to do with what happened. Sondra alleged that Eastwood controlled parts of her career, pushed her toward life-changing reproductive decisions, removed her from their home, and later participated in an agreement that appeared to offer professional opportunity without delivering meaningful work. Eastwood disputed many of her claims and described their relationship very differently. We should not present allegations as proven facts merely because they produce a dramatic story. But we also should not ignore the power imbalance between a rising actress and an established filmmaker who possessed enormous influence over casting, financing, studios, publicity, and access. Sondra Locke's life is not a simple story about an innocent victim and a single villain. It is a story about ambition, image, dependency, control, secrecy, illness, and the cost of trying to preserve a separate identity while living beside someone whose public power is much greater than your own. It is also a story about what happens when a woman fights back against a system that expects her to disappear quietly. Before we begin, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who appreciates classic Hollywood stories, and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to continue creating detailed documentaries about performers whose lives were far more complicated than the roles they played. Now, let us return to Tennessee, long before the Oscars, lawsuits, and Hollywood headlines. Let us discover Sondra Locke. Sondra Louise Smith was born in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Even the basic facts surrounding her early life became complicated by conflicting dates and stories. For much of her career, Sondra presented herself as younger than official records later indicated. This was not a small adjustment of a single year. According to the source material, she reduced her age significantly while auditioning for the role that launched her film career. That decision became one of the defining secrets of her public life. But before examining the lie, we should understand the world in which it developed. Sondra's biological father left before she was born. Her mother later married another man, and Sondra and her brother adopted his surname. A child growing up with uncertainty surrounding a father may develop complicated ideas about identity. Names become flexible. Family stories contain gaps. Official facts may feel less important than the version that allows life to continue. This does not automatically explain why Sondra later changed her age, but it offers emotional context. She grew up knowing that identity could be reconstructed through relationships and circumstances. Hollywood would eventually reward that ability. The industry did not simply ask actors to perform fictional characters. It often encouraged them to create fictional public selves. Names were changed. Birthplaces were romanticized. Marriages were hidden. Sexuality was concealed. Ages were adjusted. Accents disappeared. Studio publicity departments transformed human beings into marketable stories. Sondra's age deception was dishonest, but it occurred inside a system where controlled dishonesty was common. The problem was not only that she changed a number. The problem was that the new number became part of a structure she had to protect indefinitely. A lie told to obtain one role may seem temporary. Then the role succeeds. Reporters ask questions. Publicists repeat the claim. Studios publish biographies. Awards organizations record information. The lie becomes professionally valuable. Telling the truth becomes increasingly expensive. Sondra's false age helped her enter Hollywood. It also created a permanent fear that exposure could damage everything she had gained. During high school, Sondra developed a close friendship with Gordon Anderson. Their relationship became one of the longest and most unusual connections of her life. According to her brother, Gordon exerted a powerful influence over her. He believed the friendship contributed to Sondra cutting ties with her family. We should approach that interpretation carefully. Family estrangement is rarely caused by one outsider alone. A person may leave because of long-standing conflict, shame, control, abuse, incompatibility, or a desire to reinvent herself. Relatives often blame the person who becomes closest to the estranged family member because that explanation feels easier than examining older problems. What is clear is that Gordon remained central to Sondra's life for decades. They eventually married, but Sondra later described the marriage as unconventional and reportedly said that it was never physically consummated. Gordon was gay, and their relationship functioned differently from a conventional romantic partnership. To outsiders, the arrangement appeared confusing. Why remain legally married while pursuing relationships with other people? Why maintain the bond for more than 50 years? Perhaps the marriage offered emotional loyalty without traditional expectations. Perhaps it provided security, companionship, social protection, or a structure neither wanted to abandon. In an era when being openly gay could damage careers, housing, family relationships, and personal safety, an unconventional marriage could serve several purposes. For Sondra, Gordon may have represented continuity. Hollywood changed. Romantic relationships began and ended. Careers rose and fell. Gordon remained. This relationship reminds us that intimacy does not always fit the categories available to the public. A marriage can exist legally while functioning emotionally as friendship, family, protection, partnership, or something that combines all four. Sondra's bond with Gordon was not necessarily fraudulent simply because it was unusual. But because she kept much of its nature private, the marriage contributed to the image of a woman whose personal history was filled with secrets. In the early 1960s, Sondra studied theater on a scholarship at Middle Tennessee State University. A scholarship indicated that others recognized her potential. Theater training might have offered a structured path toward acting, but Sondra left after appearing in only a small number of productions. She also separated herself from much of her family. She made a deliberate choice because she wanted a role. The choice worked. It also required decades of protection. A false public identity can become exhausting because every accurate detail threatens the structure. The person must remember which version she told. Friends and family become risks. School records become dangerous. Old photographs require explanation. Birthdays become performances. But Sondra's lie also reflects Hollywood's obsession with female youth. A man can age into authority. His wrinkles become experience. A woman is often treated as though aging reduces her value. Sondra understood that appearing younger increased access. The industry rewarded the deception. Then it would have punished exposure. This does not remove her responsibility. It reveals the system in which the decision became rational. A lie can be both morally wrong and structurally encouraged. The lesson is larger than Hollywood. Whenever people believe their real identity will close every door, they may create a version designed to survive. The false version may succeed. But success built on concealment produces fear rather than freedom. Sondra won the role. She also inherited a secret that may have followed her to the end. To reclaim Sondra Locke's story, we do not need to pretend she was flawless. We should remember the debut performance that earned major recognition. We should examine the courage required to move into directing. We should acknowledge the choices that weakened her early momentum. We should discuss her age deception without reducing her to a liar. We should describe the unconventional marriage without treating difference as fraud. We should address the Eastwood allegations accurately, as serious, disputed claims within a relationship marked by enormous power imbalance. We should recognize that she fought Warner Brothers rather than quietly accepting a deal she believed was false. We should remember that she survived cancer for decades. Most importantly, we should stop introducing her only through the man she loved and later sued. Sondra Locke was not merely Eastwood's girlfriend. She was an actor, filmmaker, litigant, survivor, secret keeper, and complicated human being. Sondra Locke's Hollywood story began with a transformation. She changed her name. She changed her age. She changed her appearance. She entered an audition room and convinced filmmakers that she could become someone else. That ability brought her success. It also created the central conflict of her life. Who was Sondra when she was not playing the version other people expected? The young actress? The Oscar nominee? The wife in an unconventional marriage? The lover of a powerful star? The childless partner? The director? The litigant? The cancer survivor? The woman who disappeared behind the walls of a Hollywood Hills home? The answer is not one of these identities. It is all of them. Human beings become invisible when the world selects one chapter and pretends it contains the entire book. For Sondra, the selected chapter was Clint Eastwood. The relationship mattered enormously. It changed her work, home, body, public image, and legal history. But it did not create every talent she possessed. Eastwood was not present when she defeated hundreds of actors for The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. He did not create the emotional intelligence that earned her an Oscar nomination. He was not the source of every ambition that led her toward directing. He became part of her story after she had already demonstrated that she belonged on screen. And yet, his fame became so large that even her death was reported through his name. This is how erasure can happen without silence. A woman's name appears. Her photograph appears. Her films are mentioned. But everything is arranged around the man. Sondra fought this arrangement while she was alive. She used the only systems available to her. She hired lawyers. She produced documents. She made allegations under public scrutiny. She challenged a settlement. She challenged a studio. She accepted the risk of being called greedy, bitter, and difficult. Did she make every decision wisely? No. She lied when honesty might have created a different foundation. She turned down opportunities that may have changed her trajectory. She became professionally dependent on a romantic partner with far greater power. But wisdom is often clearest after the consequences arrive. The younger Sondra could not see the entire path. Neither can we. Most people make life-changing decisions using incomplete information. They accept a job because the manager appears supportive. They enter a relationship because protection feels like love. They surrender an opportunity because another seems safer. They tell a lie because the truth appears to close the only available door. Then years pass. The temporary choice becomes identity. Sondra's age lie teaches us that becoming successful as someone else can create a more painful failure than being rejected as ourselves. Her relationship teaches us that support should increase independence, not reduce it. Her lawsuits teach us that fighting for justice may not restore everything, but silence guarantees that only the powerful version survives. Her illness teaches us that the body can force clarity when ambition and conflict have consumed too much of life. And her quiet death teaches us that official recognition is unreliable. An institution may nominate you when you are useful and forget you when your story becomes difficult. That does not erase the work. It does not erase the courage. It does not erase the life. There is an especially painful image at the end of Sondra's story. The Academy Memorial plays. Famous faces appear. Music rises. The industry pauses to honor the people it has lost. Sondra's face never reaches the screen. For some, that omission proves Hollywood forgot her. But perhaps we should understand it differently. An official tribute is not the final authority over memory. A montage can omit a person. History does not have to. We can place her back into the frame. We can watch the heart as a lonely hunter and see the performance before the scandal. We can study her directing work and recognize the ambition. We can examine her lawsuits as part of a larger history of power in Hollywood. We can discuss her mistakes without using them as permission to dismiss her. We can refuse the lazy sentence that reduces her to someone's former girlfriend. This is how legacy is reclaimed. Not by creating a perfect hero. By restoring complexity. Sondra Locke was talented enough to earn an Oscar nomination on her first major attempt. She was insecure enough to build that attempt on a false age. She was ambitious enough to pursue directing. She was vulnerable enough to become dependent on a man whose career overshadowed hers. She was frightened enough to accept choices she later regretted. She was determined enough to sue when she believed powerful people had deceived her. She was strong enough to endure surgery, legal warfare, and decades outside the spotlight. She was private enough that her death passed almost unnoticed. She was important enough that the silence still feels wrong. Her story asks each of us a difficult question: how much of ourselves are we willing to surrender in exchange for access, security, or love? At first, the surrender may seem small. Change the date. Accept the lower salary. Turn down the outside role. Stay close because the partner does not like distance. Allow someone else to make the permanent decision. Trust the development deal. Believe that the home is secure because it feels like yours. Then one day, the locks change. The career stops. The person who offered protection controls the exit. The lesson is not to distrust everyone. It is to protect the part of yourself that must remain capable of leaving. Maintain your own relationships. Understand your legal rights. Keep developing your own skills. Do not allow gratitude to become permanent debt. Do not confuse access with ownership. Do not accept a life-changing physical decision merely because another person says it is best for the relationship. Healthy love does not require one person to become smaller so the other can remain comfortable. Healthy mentorship does not make the student permanently dependent. Healthy partnership does not punish independence. Sondra learned these lessons through consequences that could not be reversed. We have the opportunity to learn them through her story. There is another lesson for anyone whose work has been ignored, delayed, or attached to someone more famous. Recognition may be unfair. The headline may center another person. The institution may omit your name. But the value of what you created does not become zero because someone else controls the microphone. Your task is to preserve evidence. Finish the work. Tell the story accurately. Maintain ownership where possible. Build relationships not controlled by one gatekeeper. And when the official memorial forgets you, trust that memory can exist elsewhere, in the people affected by your work, in the records you created, and in the truth that eventually becomes harder to suppress. Sondra Locke spent much of her life protecting a false age. But age was never the most important truth about her. The important truth was that she entered Hollywood with real ability. She became trapped inside relationships and narratives that were larger than she expected. She fought to recover authorship of her life. She did not recover everything. Her career never returned to the promise of that first nomination. Some losses remained permanent. An empowering ending does not require pretending that every injustice was corrected. Empowerment means recognizing that even incomplete resistance matters. Sondra did not defeat Hollywood in the conventional sense. She did not return to the Oscars as a celebrated director. She did not receive the public farewell her early achievement appeared to promise. But she refused to sign away the truth completely. She forced private arrangements into public examination. She challenged powerful people. She survived long enough to build a life beyond their immediate control. And today, we can speak her name without placing another person's name before it. Sondra Locke. Oscar-nominated actress. Director. Cancer survivor. A woman of contradictions. A woman who made mistakes. A woman who alleged serious harm. A woman who fought. A woman Hollywood nearly forgot but did not completely erase. Because erasure succeeds only when no one returns to the record. We have returned. We have looked beyond the famous relationship. We have seen the young performer who defeated hundreds of competitors. We have seen the artist trying to move behind the camera. We have seen the patient fighting cancer while lawyers argued over the meaning of her past. We have seen the older woman choosing privacy after public conflict consumed too much of her life. And we have seen how easily an entire human being can be reduced to one headline. Let that be the final challenge her story gives us. Do not reduce people. Do not reduce yourself. You are not only your worst mistake. You are not only the person you loved. You are not only the opportunity you lost. You are not only the secret you carried. You are not only the institution that rejected or forgot you. A life contains more. Sondra's life contained more. Thank you for joining us for this journey through the career, conflicts, and complicated legacy of Sondra Locke. Let us know in the comments which part of her story affected you most: her extraordinary film debut, her relationship with Clint Eastwood, her legal battles, or Hollywood's failure to honor her publicly after her death. Please like this video, share it with another classic film fan, and subscribe to the channel for more deeply human stories from behind the screen. And until next time, remember, the world may try to introduce you through someone else. It may question your age, your worth, your ambition, or your right to begin again. It may lock the door you believed was yours. It may remove your name from the final screen. But no one else has the permanent right to define the meaning of your life. Protect your voice. Protect your independence. Protect the work that carries your name. And when the door closes, do not assume the story has ended. Sometimes the most important part begins when you stop asking the person inside to let you back in and start building a place no one else can lock you out of.